So we start our 6-pack tonight with a guest heavy recently, and we're happy to have Samantha Yates of the Dole Whip Dish, a Disney podcast, coming on tonight. We really appreciate it. We love having other podcast people, starting out, doing what we're doing. We're trying to get out there, trying to, put our thoughts and feelings on the world and things we love. So Samantha, we're really, really happy to have you on, and just thank you for coming on. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Excellent. We're very excited too. We are big Disney guys. I have my Haunted Mansion shirt on. Brenton has his ears. You have your ears on.
Yes.
So we're ready to rock and roll. So I guess to start off, what inspired you to start a Disney-based podcast?
So I've always loved Disney, and my co-host Summer also has always loved Disney. And it was a very simple story. We actually met on Instagram, and we were texting back and forth one day. We hadn't talked in a while, and we were just catching up. I was like, yeah, how are things with you? And the conversation progressed, and she mentioned, I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I just don't have anyone to do one with. And I was like, that's very funny, because I've always wanted to do a podcast, but kind of am in the same situation. And she said, well, do you want to do one with me? And I was like, yeah. And the Dole Whip Dish literally launched within a couple months of that conversation.
That's pretty cool. Did you have something?
I would say that's kind of what happened with you and me. It's a very similar story. We just both kind of had the idea of doing a podcast, and you presented it to me, and it wasn't sitting in the incubator that long before we went from, talking about to actually doing it. So it's very cool.
Yeah. So what are the topics? So you do like a seasonal thing, like season 1, season 2, that sort of thing. Season 1 just concluded?
It sure did.
Okay. What were some of the topics?
It was, we refer to it as our pilot season, the two of us together, Summer and I. And we covered some of our favorite things. Our podcast is, we want you to feel like you're sitting down with us in Adventureland. We're just friends hanging out and talking about Disney, maybe eating a Dole Whip. Like, that's our vibe that we're going for. And so we did an Adventureland deep dive. We talked about ourselves, and we did some movie nights with our favorite movies. And it was a really fun season. We talked about the 50th anniversary a little bit here and there, and highlighted our favorite small shops. But I think I'm more excited for season 2 than I was for the pilot season, because the season is spooky season. So our next episode will be villains focused. We are going to do a villains game night. We're going to focus on the Haunted Mansion, and I'm just really, really excited.
Who's your favorite villain?
I think it would have to be Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove.
Okay. Yeah. That one's kind of a deep cut.
That is a very deep cut. I like it.
Gronk is, of course, voiced by David Puddy from Seinfeld.
I adore his voice.
Yeah. Greg, who's your favorite Disney villain?
That's a good one. Who is Scar? Probably is my favorite.
He's a good one.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite.
He's very evil, though.
I feel like that's a pretty standard answer. Mine's Jafar, obviously. Huge Aladdin fan.
Yeah.
I love that movie, but I think Jafar is like, he scared me as a child, and kind of still does a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly Scar's voice.
Well, which is Jeremy Irons. In the cartoon.
Yeah.
Great voice. Yeah, absolutely great voice. We've done the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween on 2 occasions. And that's obviously very villain heavy with the fireworks show and such. But that kind of brings us to sort of our next kind of query of questions, which is, you are also a travel agent or trip advisor, and you specialize in Disney vacations. What kind of led you? Was it just your love of Disney and Disney World to kind of specialize in that, or was it most people want to go there and not to, like, the Poconos?
Yeah, I started as a travel agent just kind of happenstance, we moved for my husband's job, and I used to be a teacher, and we moved in the middle of the school year. So at Christmas time, when we went on Christmas break, I didn't go back. And it was just kind of this weird timing where it wasn't going to work for me to really go back into the classroom. And I thought, well, here is my opportunity to get out. So I started as a travel agent, and it didn't take me very long to realize that Disney trips and like working with people on their trips specifically for Disney is what I was enjoying. The other trips, I would get someone say, oh, I want to go to this, Sedona, Arizona. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about that,
Right.
but let me do a bunch of research. But with Disney, it was like, oh, we want to go to Magic Kingdom. And I'm like, oh, let me tell you everything I know about it. And it just is natural for me.
Mhm.
And I have like aside from this, because being a travel agent during the last 2 years had to been very gnarly. What was that like over, with the pandemic and everything, being a travel agent? How did that affect you?
I am incredibly blessed to have a husband who is a breadwinner of the family, and I contribute in the domestic way. I know that's kind of, I know all the feminists are probably screaming right now, like, oh my gosh, but I focus on making sure dinner's on the table, and I keep the house clean, and I get to do a travel agent kind of as a hobby, and he goes to work every day and makes the money. So
I mean, and sometimes that's the way things work out. I mean, like that kind of stuff aside, it's just, I mean, it was just a fortunate scenario for you. And, on that side of things and on to the travel thing, do you see the park expander contracting with everything going on going forward? Brenton is going to Orlando at the end of December.
Mhm.
And you see anything? Do you have any thoughts going on? Like, how do you think the park will be, by then?
I don't think we can honestly predict what the park is going to be like. I mean, when they first came back from the closure, you had to have your mask on basically at all times. Even outside, if you decided to stop and eat, you had to be 6 feet away from anybody else and stationary before you could pull your mask down. When I went back in July, it was at the point where you weren't required to wear a mask at all, except on the transportation. So on the monorail, the buses, and the ferry boats. Those are the only times that you were required to wear a mask. So I got to enjoy a whole day at Magic Kingdom without a mask on, and it was incredible. And I mean, in July, it was really hot. I mean, it's kind of always hot down there, let's be honest, but it was really nice. But I mean, here we are in September, and you have to wear masks indoors on all transportation. Basically, outside is the only time where you aren't required to wear a mask. So it's changing, I feel like, so much all the time.
Well, yeah, I live in California. Sorry to butt in, Brent. I'm just I live in California, so there was, June 15th, they stopped having the mask stuff, and then it spiked with the Delta variant and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So it went back. So, but we went in the little time period where there were no masks and things like that, and it felt pretty normal. The only thing that was actually not normal is that you could just not wait in line because they only took reservations, which we had, and everything like that out at Disneyland here. So it was weird. It was like, oh, well, this is actually like more fun because I can just do whatever I want. And I know that, Disney can make money however that, in various ways. And I'm sure everything was fine. So there was that weird period of like, we didn't have to wear a mask, and it felt pretty normal. They still, they still had guidelines of like, hey, we suggest you do this, we suggest you do that or whatever. But yeah, there was that small period of time out here in California where you just, had that slight bit of not having to wear a mask. It's back to what you said, indoors, all that stuff. But yeah, that's funny how, we just don't know. It literally is like a day by day account for, our lives in general, but especially places like Disney.
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm kind of curious, because there's been, just in the amount of time since I've been there, which was the last time I've been to Orlando was 2012. So, I mean, we're coming up, it'll be almost 10 years by the time I get back, and there's been a lot of changes. But I guess I'm curious, are character meetups back? Are parades back? I know that they had some modified stuff, fireworks. And I know with the 50th coming up, they want to be able to do all that stuff. So where does everything kind of stand at this time?
So as of right now,
Right.
the fireworks are back in Magic Kingdom and in Epcot. Hollywood Studios has a show on the Chinese Theater that is back. It is more of a light show, like projections and
Now, is that
just
Phantasmic?
it is not Phantasmic.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact name of it, but it is more of just a projection on the Chinese Theater with a little bit of fireworks here and there. Phantasmic isn't back yet.
Okay.
Animal Kingdom's never had fireworks.
Right.
They aren't doing parades at all, but they are doing cavalcades, which basically are 1 or 2 parade floats at a time, and they pop up randomly throughout the day. I personally thought that was incredible because with a parade, if you really want to see the parade well, you have to camp out, find your spots in the sun. There's so many people all in one spot. But with the cavalcades, they popped up multiple times throughout the day and they were random. So you couldn't just, you could camp out on the parade route and wait for them, but not many people were doing that. And when I was there in July, I saw all of the cavalcades and I saw some of them more than once throughout the day, which was really nice. They didn't have any meet and greets, and the meet and greets still are not back, but they are doing the social meet and greets. I know specifically in Magic Kingdom, there are characters on the train station at the entrance of the park a lot, which is really fun. There's usually like 5 or 6 characters all right there. You can stand there, wave to them, talk to them. They can like hear you and interact with you, and you can take pictures, with them like in the background.
Sure.
It's hard to get them without other people, but you can still get some pretty good ones. I love seeing the country bears pop up in Frontierland up on the roof of the Country Bear Hall. Oh, so sweet. And then in Epcot, they also have the cavalcades, and they've got other characters. Like you'll see Winnie the Pooh out there with a butterfly net, and you'll see Joy frolicking around. It's so sweet. I know Anna and Elsa have been coming out in Norway a lot. So they are doing their best to give you those experiences in a socially distanced way.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing a really great job. But if you're somebody who meeting characters is your favorite thing and you like to go stand there, talk to them, get autographs, take pictures, that's just not there right now, unfortunately. But there are
that's what
perks.
we are, not so much for me, but we're taking our kids for the first time and they're 6 and 4. And so, that's one of the things that we've kicked around, the idea of, do we reschedule, even though we're so close, because that's an experience that we want them to be able to enjoy. It would feel like not getting the whole experience, you know what I mean? But with that being said, and we kind of touched on this earlier, is the 50th anniversary is starting soon, or it already started?
It starts October 1st, and it is an 18th month celebration.
Which is October 1st is Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so that'll
excited. That'll be the day this posts. Will be the start of the 50th. So what's going on? Is there anything to pay attention to, and how long is that going to run?
So it'll run for 18 months. So it gives a lot of people the opportunity to partake in the celebration. The castle obviously got a makeover. She looks incredible. So definitely check out those decorations. You can also see just general updating of the color schemes and banners throughout the whole parks at the Transportation and Ticket Center at Disney Springs. You can see little touches of, they're calling it iridescence, throughout the whole resort, which is just incredible. I am loving the Fab 50 statues that they have rolled out. They're in the parks now, and you can already see them. And they're 50 beautiful golden statues on a iridescent base. And I know right outside of the castle. There's Mickey and Minnie and Pluto and Goofy, Chip and Dale. They have an orange bird and a figment. They have Edna from Incredibles. I mean, they have some really popular characters, but then some also popular but less popular characters you don't normally get to see in the parks. So those are really incredible. They do still have fireworks. So Harmonious is a fireworks show that's been coming to Epcot for a long time. I feel like we've been waiting on Harmonious for a long time, and the closure really set it back. So that debuts for the 50th anniversary. Also, they're debuting a new fireworks show for the 50th at Magic Kingdom. It'll be called Disney Enchantment, and the concept art is absolutely incredible. And I'm sure if for anyone listening who is not going to Disney World for the 50th like me, you can watch the fireworks shows on like live streams on YouTube and stuff, which will be really cool to get to see. But the concept art has like pixie dust going down Main Street USA, and I'm sure that will be light projections, but I cannot wait to see how they do it. I've heard that some people think that it will be similar to something that they have in Disneyland at night, like kind of like the Electric Parade, but not exactly.
The Electric Parade's a lot of fun if you're and things like that.
Yeah, they had that at Disney World the last time I was there, the Electric Light Parade.
It's been retired.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I knew that. It was one of the nights that we didn't do the Mickey's Halloween thing, because typically they have the Halloween parade, but it was one of the off nights that we, the park hopper, which is great. We ambled back into Magic Kingdom and saw the Electric Light. I think we saw like the tail end of it. We didn't see the whole thing. Is there any like new rides, new attractions, any new restaurants that they're doing for the 50th?
Absolutely. So Remy's Ratatouille Adventure will open in Epcot. They've already extended a whole section of France. So there's a new creperie restaurant and like a whole new walkway over to the new attraction. And it looks incredible. Absolutely incredible. They just opened up Space 220 in Epcot as well. So you can go up in an elevator that takes you into space. And the whole, you'll have to look up and see on YouTube. The pictures are incredible. It reminds me of Star Wars a lot. I'm not going to lie, because all of the windows you're like in space and you can see Earth, and they have like spacemen floating outside every so often. I'm pretty sure there's a couple that there's one that carries an X-Wing, and then there's a couple that come out and have like a lightsaber fight. It's really cute.
I like that.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they've been building Tron in Magic Kingdom for a good while. We do not have a release date yet, but if I had to guess, I think that they're maybe going to try to have that done at some point throughout the 50th anniversary. I mean, 18 months is a long time. So it's
possible.
Is it
replacing something?
It's not. They're adding on to the park. So the only thing that it's kind of replacing is they had to take some space from the Tomorrowland Speedway cars, and then they also are having to reroute the railroad.
Okay. Yeah.
Railroad. Yeah.
Yeah. Who cares about a railroad?
You can just walk around the park. Move on. When you reached out to us about doing a crossover to our pod, one of the big draws was that you're a new Star Wars fan, which is cool. We're obviously huge Star Wars fans here. What drew you to the franchise? And can you explain your position of actually liking the prequels?
So I know that I'm obviously in the minority there. My husband was like, let's just watch Star Wars movies, because I just never had seen them. I obviously knew about them. I mean, you can't not know about Star Wars. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
But I had never seen them, so I knew bits and pieces, just pop culture references. Sure. And it was 2019 when I watched them for the first time. And my husband was like, let's watch them in the order that they go in, because I think you'll understand the storyline better.
Now, had he watched them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he'd already seen everything. And I knew, like, Luke, I am your father. Like, I knew Darth Vader was Luke's father. That's just not, it's, you can't not know that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I think that's why I like the prequels so much, is that's what I watched first. That was like my first interaction. And then I love Clone Wars, like the TV show. I watched that on Disney Plus because I had watched all the Star Wars and I needed more. And so I watched those and I fell in love with all of the characters, the clones, Anakin, Ahsoka. I just fell in love with all of them. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi is my absolute favorite of all time. I think he's just the purest, best Jedi out there.
Do you watch The Mandalorian?
Yes. It took me a while to get into it though.
Whoa.
Yeah, the first season
we are huge fans. The two of us are like, this is
I love it now, but the first season, I feel like, to be honest, I only watched it when I ran out of episodes of Rebels to watch.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, well, I want more Star Wars, but I don't have anywhere else really to go. And I had tried watching The Resistance and couldn't get into that one. And then when I finished The Mandalorian, I went back to that one.
Yeah. And, we focused on you saying you like what is your favorite Star Wars movie then?
I feel like just all the first three kind of just go, they all just kind of blend together since they're that, like, I feel like they're one storyline, like each grouping kind of has its own storyline. It's hard for me to separate what happens in one versus the other. Some of the things I really like, I love the banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin when he's older. And then, I mean, him transforming into Darth Vader and like just all of that, I feel like is really cool and also so sad. Like, it breaks my heart every time. Like when Obi-Wan is like, but you were the chosen one. Like, it just breaks my heart. It's hard to separate them.
That's fair. I mean, it's true too. Like, for us, we grew up with that. And so, our first viewing of it was 4, 5, and 6. So, I that is the interesting thing of like watching it for the first time, other than knowing the pop culture references, but to start with, 1, 2, and 3, in a way, like, I don't agree, but I understand why you say that, because this is your first experience with them. And it's just like our first experiences were the 4, 5, and 6, the original 3. So, I mean, teach their own. And I get that, because there is, I will say, especially in number 3, there is a lot of emotion in that movie to kind of close out that portion that brings you into, the main storyline of Star Wars. So I think that's, while I disagree, I understand it completely. Like, it is an interesting take.
Not to get like too far into the weeds, because this is something that this is fields that we tread into often here. I do think there's a large contingency of people who did not see the originals first. And typically, they do find, especially Revenge of the Sith, to be their most favorite, because there is all that, it is so emotionally charged. My favorite, as we kind of talked about when we did our 2 episodes where we broke all this down of the prequels, is the first one, is The Phantom Menace. And I think it's because of, it had so much potential. You know what I mean? And the thing that we've talked about a lot is that the stories are there. You know what I mean? It's just the execution wasn't always on point, maybe too much CG, stuff like that. But there is, I mean, my wife finds the original trilogy unwatchable, and she likes the prequels because that's what she started with, but like Greg said, we grew up knowing that original trilogy, and that's like,
those were literally, those were our Star Wars for 20 years. That's like the funny thing about, like, that was our Star Wars for 20 years, like our development 5 to like 25 or whatever. That's the only Star Wars we knew. And that's a funny way to think about it, because I actually don't know many people that have watched it like the way you have, where the first time you watched it was it, and you weren't like a little kid or something, but 1 through 9. I think that's an interesting way to look at things too.
Right.
I find cool. if somebody asked me what order to watch them in, I probably would say release order, because that's the order they were created in and intended to be watched in.
Right. When people ask me that question, I tell them to stop at The Force Awakens. You can skip the last two.
Okay, I do have a very unpopular opinion about the Disney Star Wars trilogy. I think Palpatine coming back was incredible and like totally caught me off guard. I was like, that's amazing. I loved it. I mean, nobody else agrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it was a great show tonight. And,
it really caught me off guard though, because you watch him die.
He was gone.
We sure did.
You watch him die. So I was shocked when he came back.
I'm sorry.
And
I knew Brenton's reaction would be incredible. That's why I'm laughing. Like,
But I mean, they finally did something different too. It's not like.
Was it different?
Different than blowing up something to end the movies. I mean, I
guess that's fair.
Blow up the Star Destroyer. You got to blow up the Death Star, and then you got to blow up another bigger Death Star. I mean,
I suppose that's fair.
Yeah,
they didn't have to blow something up.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't like it. Obviously, I love Star Wars.
Yeah,
but
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Just real quick. Brenton and I are accused of not liking Star Wars, even though we love Star Wars.
I can see that actually.
So do you have a thought on that, where Brenton and I are like, we love the original 3 and we love the Mandalorian and Rogue One and
we really like. We get this thing where it's like, you guys hate all the things you love, and it's like, well, there's valid criticism for certain things. And it's, we love the original 3. I have a really soft spot for Phantom Menace. The Force Awakens is it's perfectly fine. Rogue One, I love Rogue One. It's my favorite of all the Disney movies. I put it on the same level as the original.
I really like Solo. Like, that's where I really like Solo.
And the Mandalorian.
I also really like Solo.
Yeah.
And the Mandalorian, especially season 2, is perfect.
Yes.
But we do get that while you guys don't like Star Wars.
Well,
but I think
the thing. So I can tell you right now, my husband is not perfect, and I could sit here and criticize him all day long, but that doesn't mean I don't love him.
Right.
Like if I was like analyzing him and picking him apart, I could find things wrong with him.
Tell him to skip past this part when he listens to it.
I'm just trying to think of like an example of I absolutely love him, and I'm not going to analyze and pick him apart. But if I were to, he wouldn't be perfect. None of us. I wouldn't be perfect to him. Well,
let's bring it back to this. I'm sure that when you plan a trip to the Magic Kingdom, the first place that you're not, oh boy, I can't wait to get to the Hall of Presidents.
But you still love it.
You still go.
Yeah, right.
Yep. It's part of Magic Kingdom.
It's like going to It's a Small World for me. I can't stand it. I despise it every time, and yet I still do it. And every time I walk out, I was like, that was weird and took way too long. That's what she said. But anyhow.
Where can, if our listeners wanted to find you online, find the Dole Whip Dish, where can we find you? Where can we direct them?
The Dole Whip Dish is what you would search, and we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all kinds of listening platforms, but I know Spotify and Apple Podcasts are the most popular. Our Instagram handle is Dole Whip Dish Pod. And then if you're interested in a Disney vacation, hit me up. I'm at Samantha Yates Travels with an S on the end.
I love that you're Dole Whip Dash, by the way. Dole Whip's my favorite thing.
They're so good.
They're so good. Great every time.
Yes.
I'd have gone with the giant turkey leg podcast, but that's just me. I'm a large man, so we appreciate you. We appreciate you coming by. I hope Greg didn't scare you off. We can certainly do this again sometime when you make it through the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe and want to come back on and chat about that, because it's technically Disney. I thought about that after the fact. It's like, who's my favorite Disney villain? It's Darth Vader, because he's technically a Disney
right.
villain.
True.
Yeah.
Just like my favorite
So
princess
true.
is Leia.
I was gonna say Thanos,
Yeah.
one of those things, but yeah.
Whiplash.
Yeah, there we go.
Whiplash. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, and good luck with the future of your pod. I hope it continues to go well for you and you're able to grow it and all the rest.
Thank you so much for having me. This was incredible.
Thank you for coming on.